So actually, my presentation here is entitled, and you see it a little bit here, Long-Term Outlook for Stainless Steels, a Nightmare Scenario for the Ferroalloy Industry. Usually people tell you, in the long term, everything is okay. We are just in the middle of problem now. I tell you, I have to tell you that this is probably not the case from the perspective of ferroalloys when it comes to this industry. First of all, Nigel, why do we have CRU on my presentation here? It's not very good, but okay. So that's not an indication. We are still independent from CRU, okay? So we have nothing to do with them. I have to tell you, these 12 people, yeah, would be nice in terms of salaries to be paid. My team has become also bigger also last year, and actually we are growing, unfortunately, faster than our revenues are growing. And you see these friendly people here. We are 18 now, of which 16 are placed here in Austria, in the western part, not so far from Munich. And 2 we have in Asia, 1 in Singapore and 1 in Shanghai. And we still do these 3 parts. Something's wrong with the presentation here, I have to say. I hope that this... Shall I give you my memory stick and we do it from there? Because it gets worse. You know, when I show you some diagrams or so, you probably won't be able to see what's in them. That's, okay, that looks good. Much better. Okay, now you see the friendly people even better. We are doing market research. This is the core of our business for stainless and special steel producers, yeah? But also raw material increasingly. Then SMI, our sister company, is doing multi-client studies. We are doing a fantastic study at the moment on the oil and gas industry as a market for all corrosion-resistant materials, from alloy steels to nickel alloys. And then we have conferences as well, together with Metal Bulletin and AMM, our long-term partners. You see, 70% of what we do is approximately stainless, and the rest is all these specialty steels. We have no clue about carbon steels and unalloyed materials. This is not our world. Okay, let's start with the status quo here. This is the stainless steel industry. For the record, you see, we had last year 36 million tons melted and 32 million tons of ship products. About 80% were long products, about 20%, the other way around, 80% flat products, 20% long products. We don't need to go into the details here. The long product market last year was shrinking by 3%. The flat product market was growing by 2%. So basically, we had a stagnating year. Yeah? And like in many other markets as well, 2012 was basically stagnating. It's a $100 billion industry. These were the producers in 2012. The biggest ones, Tisco, POSCO, same size, 2.7 million tons of shipments in flat products. Then the Jusco Group, Bao Steel, and then comes the first European one. Now, I show you also the changes we are expecting until 2014, because this picture, the supply side, or your customers, is highly dynamic. It's changing all the time. If you would have shown me that 10 years ago, with all these Asians in front here, I would have doubted whether you are sober, actually. But what's happening only in the next 2 years here, if you look at this here, is also substantially. Yeah? First of all, Tisco will grow, the Chinese generally, Tisco will grow, POSCO only a little bit, and Bao still will grow substantially. Tisco in Taiwan, they have a new melt shop, which they will definitely ramp up. They always did it. They will also do it this time. And also Bao Steel is ramping up the production at their Daisheng plant, a new plant in Futian. Before, in 2017, they will switch off their operations in Bao Steel, as in Baoshan in Shanghai. The other big change, of course, here is Outokumpu. Outokumpu is now integrating the former ThyssenKrupp Stainless, or Inoxum. Yeah? And what you see there is they will, for a short period of time, be the #1 this year. But already next year, some of the Chinese will surpass them again, and they will become then 3rd and 4th. And what we have in there is, we assume for this picture that Aparam is able to buy AST. Yeah? This is a big question mark still, of course, but it would be the best for the market. Yeah? then we would have consolidation, yeah? But there are still big obstacles. You know, the European Commission wants to make sure that we still have 4 stainless producers in Europe, so there are some question marks whether this will materialize. But you see, it's a highly dynamic picture there. Also, Jindal continues to ramp up in Orissa, not as fast as they want, but they are ramping up, they're becoming bigger, and the rest, you know, all the Asians are growing, whilst you see also some of them will become smaller. Yeah? If we're talking here, for example, AK Steel somewhere, yeah? We just believe that in North America, due to the ramp up of the Alabama plant, that in austenitic grades there will be a lot of competition, and probably AK and as well as Allegheny will focus on specialties and get out of the standard 304, 316s, which can be much cheaper produced at Outokumpu's plant in Alabama and North American Stainless. So, good news. At the moment, the industry runs at 73% capacity utilization, that's slab capacity, and only in the next 2 years, that will already increase to 80%. So that's already an indication that for this industry, which is bleeding a lot, from 27 producers last year, only 3 made money. Show me another industry where this is the case. Not even in the aerospace industry this was the case at the heights of the crisis. So from 27, only 3 made money. Not sustainable, for sure not, but what I'm indicating with this is that we are right at the trough at the moment, and we will see 2013 as the year of improvement as it progresses. Growth rates that we see, 2011, the big surprise was here, this enormous recovery in North America, 26% plus, yeah? And the rest of the world was growing, still recovering from 2009, total world 9%. 2012, last year, as I said, a transition year. It was a year of stagnation. North America was growing by 5%, Latin America by 13%, Europe already shrinking last year, China only 5% in stainless, demand, real demand. In Asia, we had the problem in Fukushima, which drew everything down, but also Korea was sluggish and Taiwan. And then India disappointed once again. You know, India does not develop as it is forecasted year after year after year. It's lagging behind, and probably we hear some reasons afterwards why this is the case. And now for 2013, except the United States or North America, where we see a slight reduction in growth, anything else is improving. The improvement in Europe will not be strong enough to bring us to positive territory, but at least, you know, we won't shrink much anymore. China will accelerate and the rest also. And we think that the world will grow from 2 to 4%. And this is also now what Catherine had in for molybdenum growth, etc. So that's pretty much in line, I think, with your assumptions about the stainless market this year. So, good news, short-term outlook. First of all, to 2020. This is our stainless steel demand outlook really in the midterm to 2020, where you see that we will have particularly accelerating growth in 2014-15. This is based on how do we get these numbers? It's not just drawn. We have the market split into 5 main market segments, so transportation, process equipment, building and construction, consumer durables, and others. And each of these segments into 55 individual product segments. So we look in 55 segments and 5 world regions, talking to main consumers. That's why I have so many people here, because they're traveling all the time, talking to consumers about what's driving your market, what do you expect this year, in the longer term, etc. And with this, we're coming to this demand curve. Of course, we don't have financial crisis in there. We don't have in there if the US melts down now or something like that. You can never predict that. But if things continue basically macroeconomic as expected, that should be the stainless steel demand, which is definitely not negative, a growth rate of 3.8% between now and 2020. Consolidation. I mean, this is something this industry needs to get their act together. And in Europe, you know, we had 9 melt shops. Today we have 9 melt shops, and we need to reduce that number by 4. Yeah? So that's the target level in order to get to a reasonable capacity utilization. And I think 2 are already decided. Yeah? I think basically in the NiCoMo group. Also, that's not known to many, Aparam has closed one melt line in Genk, you know, very quiet. Yeah? So this is also a kind of reduction. Or Acerinox, which is doing it very soft, very clever. They have a meeting with the unions every month on the 25th, and they decide how many days will we melt next month. And it's a number between 15 and 25. Yeah? It cannot be more than 25. So already this melt shop, which is a 1 million ton melt shop, equipment-wise, could maximum produce 800,000 tons in Spain today. So it's a soft reduction of capacity. And this is happening throughout the industry. And that kind of flexibility will bring us back to profitability in the stainless industry. North America, you see, we have 3 melt shops too many. China, 9. Yeah? Then we have, in the rest of Asia, 4, mostly in Japan. And some are already earmarked for closure. So in the total world should reduce to 2020, 22 melt shops. They are obsolete. We believe that won't happen. We know that specifically in China. But we think that about 10 will go, bringing the capacity utilization back to over 80%, and this is good. And here you see where we will see closures. That means in Europe, basically, something's closed every year until 2016. Then we are having America, first ramp up of Alabama, afterwards closures at AK and Allegheny. Then in China, they are still building. We will have this year more than 2.5 million tons of fresh capacity coming in China. But then it gets less. And even we think that also in China, there will be some closures. Rest of Asia, or the other Asia, this is mostly then the melt shop of Acerinox in Malaysia that they are planning there. Let's see whether it's in Malaysia or Indonesia. That's for me still a question mark. And so it looks like the most closures we see in Europe. So capacity, stainless, capacity utilization globally. Yeah? That means 2013 is the trough. From here on, it gets better, and also hopefully business-wise. Now, this is for nickel, and I saw something similar from Panos. I think showed that before. The demand for nickel in stainless steel, in nickel alloys, super alloys, in alloy steels, plating, and other applications, including the batteries, is relatively slow, will probably go up a little bit more in 2014-15. I think that was also the reason why they are, CRU on this side, sees that stronger growing already this year and next year. That's why they have a relatively small nickel surplus in for 2013. We are a little bit more cautious here, and this is the capacity of projects which are underway. So no planned projects, but real projects which are under construction, under commissioning, etc. And you see it's an enormous gap. But what we believe, what in reality will happen, and we see it already, slowdowns, things are being pushed back, some things probably will never materialize. It shows that also for the nickel industry, it seems that the worst is behind them. They are running at the moment at around 72% capacity utilization, and you see also that we believe is getting bigger and bigger, but I don't see a nickel shortage like what we've seen in 2015 and 16 before. I don't buy into this. You should not forget, this is including nickel pig iron in China. Yeah? And as we know, there is at the moment for this new technology no slowdown. They're still having new projects under construction, like this one here. That's the plant of Jingshan in Fujian province. It's about 2.5 hours by car from Wenzhou south. And you see this, they have 5 rotary kilns there, where they produce a product with 11.5% nickel. And this is the new thing. That's the game changer, what I say. They make stainless, not nickel pig iron. They produce immediately there 304, 316, and some 200 series stainless steel. Yeah? At the moment, they do slabs. A hot rolling mill is under commissioning, will be commissioned in this quarter. Yeah? It's unfortunately, or fortunately for the other stainless producers, still a narrow one with only 1,000 millimeter width, but for the Chinese market that is enough, and that is the lowest cost stainless steel produced in the world. And now you see where the plant is here, and it's a 300,000 ton plant. On the other side of the mountain, a new identical plant is under commissioning already. So that will also be operational this year. Also the USCO plant will be commissioned this year, which is very similar to this one. You know, so this is a game changer, nickel pig iron, and it will keep the nickel prices in a price band. Yeah? But now, and this is the good news for the nickel producers outside China, this price band is not something that goes horizontal. This price band is deeply going up because it takes about 6,500, or let's say 5 to 6,500 kilowatt hours to produce 1 ton of this nickel pig iron. And the electricity costs in China are artificially low at the moment. China was building 100 power plants to the Olympics, and since then, between 20 and 25, 30, yeah, nobody wants to build power plants there because there's no money, no return, because the electricity prices are too low. So it's very clear to me that the electricity prices in China are going up a lot faster than outside China. We don't need to talk about labor inflation, which is going up very much as well. But the other issue that is hitting them is the renminbi. The renminbi went up 22% in 5 years, and you can be sure that this direction will continue. So with that all, you know, it shows that if we are at the moment at probably $7 per pound floor level, yeah, where we also see where nickel always finds its resistance, this is going up to probably $10 a pound within the next 6-7 years. Yeah? So I would say this is where nickel is moving in this price band. So now we come to scrap, yeah? The flexible part of the stainless steel raw material supply chain. In scrap you have 3 basic types. Reverse scrap, that's about 11% of the crude steel production, and usually within 3 months it's ready for melting again. Then you have first use scrap, that is what is generated in the fabrication industry, and this comes back within 6 months. The biggest part, and more than 50% of all stainless steel scrap, is end-use scrap, old scrap. Yeah? And this depends on the average life. Yeah? We figure out that over all austenitic stainless steel products, it's around 27 years, but it depends very much whether it's a pot and pan, or whether it's a sink, or whether it's an austenitic exhaust component and so on. You know, some components are only 10 years, others 100 years. If you think on the Empire State Building, you know, which is still cladded with scrap, and scrap prices never went that high that somebody took that off, you know. But what I'm saying is this part of the scrap market is stimulated by the prices. Yeah? These people who collect it, who destroy houses, or, you know, they buy the scrap and they wait until they get the right value for their material, and sometimes they sit on the metal for a year before they release it. So it can be stimulated by the relative intrinsic value of scrap prices. There's a 4th type of scrap, and these are blends. Actually, in Europe and North America, what the big mills are using is mostly blends. In Asia, not that much. Yeah? And blends is if somebody's using off-spec nickel or nickel alloys and blends it into a ferritic stainless steel scrap to produce 18-8. Yeah? And this is about 10% of the scrap market. And if you want to forecast that, you have to forecast how many nickel units are available for blending. And this is not going up because the efficiency in the nickel alloy industry to create closed scrap cycles is getting bigger and bigger. Yeah? And nickel alloys is about 50% of what these blends are made from. So this interesting curve, yeah, is comparing the real scrap price with the theoretic scrap price. In the past, there was a formula used, which was 90% of the nickel value, 85% of the chrome value, and 100% of the iron units, also fully paid, is the theoretic price where a scrap processor starts his negotiations with his suppliers and also with his customers. In the past, this formula was fine, but after the crisis, it's not valid anymore. And then after the crisis, additionally, you see there is times when scrap is too expensive and times when it is too cheap. We are right now rather in the cheap thing. But against nickel pig iron, scrap is always too expensive. And this is the reason why the Chinese are not using scrap. Yeah? They still don't import. And so because for them, nickel pig iron is lower in price than scrap imports plus VAT, you know, with all these costs, it's not an alternative there. And this is why I think, that's my take now, going forward, the scrap price level is at the moment at crossroads and will go to a lower level. We see it already that now we're talking sometimes 80, 85, between 80 and 85% of the nickel value. Nobody pays 85% of the chrome value anymore. It's getting smaller. And the iron unit still, I mean, this is not much discussed. So scrap tendentially will become lower in price because one rule is always true. At the end of the day, the scrap market is sold out. This is different from ferroalloys, which are not at all sold out. You know, they are stockpiled and whatever. The scrap that is available is also melted. And it prices itself that way that it will always be competitive. So, long-term outlook, all bad news. Not all bad news. First of all, quite dramatic curve, as you can see. The nickel substitution that happened due to the high nickel prices we had, the high volatility, because it's not only the price level of nickel that makes people run away, it's the volatility mostly, has led us to a fact that, the years are not very good seen here. This is only in the last 10 years. Yeah? It fell from 67% in around 2000, that was in the beginning of the 2000s, to now today we are at 57%. This increase here that you see here was last year. It went up a little bit and now it's falling again. But the basic story that I have here is that the end of the major substitution is already very near. Yeah? And this is also based on the fact that the nickel prices will not be as volatile as they have been in the past due to the nickel pig iron story that I told you. So the volatility is being reduced and also the absolute price level has a ceiling, and based on this, 304 is becoming very popular again. Yeah? And these initiatives of the stainless producers to tell their customers, look, we have ferritics, we have duplex and lean duplex, they say, to hell with it, you know, I'm not going through all this procedure. I use 304, I can buy in 304 everything I want around the corner in every thickness, every surface, and in every product form. And that's why we think that we will always stay north of 54%. So in the long term, that is definitely good news for the nickel industry. You see here, even in 2040, we see over 50% here. And it's even increasing. The increase here comes from the fact that we believe that these inferior 200 series in India, where they are using it for pots and pans and sinks and everything, they will be replaced. This is called pata-pati business, single-rolled sheets. They will be replaced by coil products, mostly ferritics, clear, and Jindal is building the plant for that. But some of it will go to austenitics, and that will worldwide, also globally, push the austenitic ratio actually up after 2018. So, now comes bad news. And this is, we have a scrap model, very extensive one, where all these components that I explained to you before, first use scrap, end use scrap, and revert scrap, are being forecasted in the long term. And you can play with the parameters, you know, the industrial production in China or whatsoever. You know, there is only one way for the scrap ratio, which is at the moment at around 53%. That's for 304 in this case. And this is up. It will rise up to close to 60% within the next 10 years. But then after 2030, that's a quite dramatic change. And this is when the market in China is becoming so mature that all this stainless steel that has been in the 90s and 2000s installed in China, etc., there is a real wave of stainless steel coming into the market, which the market growth cannot absorb. Yeah? So after 2030, yeah, it could well be that the market for example, ferronickel or ferrochrome would shrink because of scrap going probably up to over 60% scrap ratio. Scrap will always be priced that way that it can compete with primary raw materials. So that's here we're describing the reasons behind this. So moly, basically different in the next years. Molybdenum scrap is relative to nickel scrap short. There are people who pay premiums for the molybdenum, or at least last year in a certain time they did, to get 1882, so 316 scrap. Yeah? And you see one thing, we are at 2012 now, the scrap ratio for moly-bearing scrap, and here we are not only talking stainless, we are also talking nickel alloys, we are talking engineering steels, which is not using much external scrap. A little bit tool steel producers are using external scrap. Yeah? But it shows that basically in the late 20s, there will be a more severe situation. They will not be able to increase it more. First of all, you see also it's lower. The scrap ratios for moly are for the whole metallurgical industry lower than they are for nickel. The problem here comes also then in 2030, you know, and later. So that actually is then also there the case that the scrap availability is growing faster than the demand for scrap, pushing up the scrap ratios, but we will stay below 30%. Okay, key takeaways from that. So this is your industry here, by the way, no? I visited last week the Niagara Falls, you know, so it's, I've seen something similar. Nickel prices are locked in a price channel by the economics of the Chinese nickel pig iron producers. That is one issue that's changing this industry. The nickel substitution has slowed substantially and will even be revised within the next 10 years. Stainless steel scrap will always be competitively priced. All scrap will be used. Then we have the market for primary metal could decline after 2030, as I said. And the situation is more severe for nickel and chrome than it is for moly. Moly has here also in the long term stronger fundamentals. So if you think, I mean, you could think 2030, I mean, this is a long time, yeah? But if any project is decided now, it most likely comes on stream somewhere around 2020, yeah? So now you commission that project in 2020, then you have a strong or normal market that is going along the growth in the metallurgical industry for only about 10 years. Yeah? So that means probably, I mean, that's the thing. Projects that make sense have to be decided pretty soon. Yeah? And then after 2020, I would think twice if I'm investing in new capacity here in particularly the nickel and the chrome market. And unfortunately, all the chrome people have left, which were here in the morning. I stressed that specifically for them. Okay, so that comes to an end. Who wants to know more about stainless steel? Yeah? We have, note down, 4th and 5th of June, we are doing the big stainless conference in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. That's one of the stainless hotspots. Kaohsiung has the highest per capita consumption of stainless steel. It will be very lively with all the Chinese players there, fabricators, service centers. This hotel actually is owned by USCO, yeah? And, but it's not only Taiwanese, we have, as I said, the Japanese there. And so everything that has something to say in Asia, in the Stainless Asia arena, will gather there at the beginning of June. The biggest conference will be here in London. For the first time we do it in London, 3rd to 5th of September. Yeah? And that's the 12th International Stainless and Special Steel Summit. We're expecting over 300 people there, purely commercial. And it's not only stainless, it's also about tool steels, engineering steels, etc. And I already have the program finished, and I can tell you it's fantastic. All the CEOs of the European stainless and special steel producers will be there on stage. And we have a cocktail at the LME. You know, we're going with a double-decker bus over to the LME, and it will be an interesting program. Last but not least, North America, Chicago. How do the winds blow for 2013? That's in the mid of September, 17th, 18th, which will focus on North America, and here, once again, about stainless. So, before I let you go, I heard that this morning there was a paper about demographic changes, yeah, and their impact on the industry. We also analyzed these megatrends, yeah, and we found one very interesting thing that particularly you, Catherine, will like. You know, we were analyzing, you know, what does a man and a woman different when they go shopping and when they consume, yeah? And give a man money, then he goes out, he buys a big car, stainless ornamentals, household appliances, lifestyle products, consumer electronics. He buys himself a nice watch, which has a stainless steel casing probably, and he drinks beer and wine. A woman buys a small car, yeah? She buys sinks, utensils, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. And when you look now, how much stainless does each one of them buy? If you give him 1,000 euros, the man buys 3.6 kilos and the woman 10.3. So what we say, women to power, you know, that is it's only good for us that the women get that. Thank you very much. So. Okay.
Thank you, Markus, for an excellent presentation as usual. Do we have any questions?
No.
Nobody wants to ask a
Nope.
question? I have a question though.
You have?
I do.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned about the stainless steel scrap value to go down in the future,
You don't want to hear that.
whereas the consumption going up.
Yeah.
Isn't that a contradiction by itself?
I don't think so, because the thing is, at the end of the day, yeah, well, you see it already now that 90% is a thing of the past. When did you the last time sell for 90%?
Today?
Today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then your customer should sign up for metal links. Because that's not a normal market then, you know, that's not a normal situation.
Well, we'll debate on that a little later.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, with this competitive nickel market that we are having, I don't think that works, right?
No, you took off this.
But that doesn't work either.
That works.
That's working.
Oh, that works, yeah. With the competitive nickel market, and you know what's going on in ferronickel, it's a catastrophe at the moment, you know. So they are going down with their pricing, and stainless steel scrap has to follow. It has to follow, you know, because it's there. It's already sitting there. It's a little bit like the byproduct moly, yeah? That will always be sold, yeah? And there will always be money. So you have to explain your suppliers that the 90% are a thing of the past. It doesn't matter for you. For you, you have the same
I'm
margin.
making my own spreads, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah. All right.
Can I just ask you on scrap, is the 200 series being fully recycled?
200 series is not fully recycled. Yeah. Unfortunately, 200 series more and more shows up in regular scrap, you know, where you don't want to have it. Yeah. Not so easy to identify. And well, in India it is recycled, but I think the recycling ratio is probably lower than in 300 series.
Correct.
You know?